What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Corvette Weekly. We are here today with a very special guest. You guys, I'm kind of curious how many of you actually know Lyle over here from C8 Corvettes. Him and I have officially met at Carlisle for the last 2 years in a row, I believe. But I've watched a lot of his stuff. He's mostly kind of more of an old school Corvette, or should I say probably C6 and under, if I had to really put a number on it.
Yep.
And we're going to get a really interesting approach to his opinions on a C8 Corvette here soon. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. There is some C8 Corvette news. We also have some really interesting giveaways going tonight because, like I told you guys, starting November, this is now Paragon Performance Month. So we are sponsored by Paragon Performance for the entire month here. What that means for you is you guys can potentially win a $500 gift certificate from Paragon Performance. As usual, every donation counts, or as every $10 donation is an entry. $50 or more is double entries. Now, if you guys remember, last week we were talking about the Z06 intakes. Those are still going. Both of these will be kind of wrapped up at the end of this month. So whatever you donate for, if you donate because you want to win that intake, but you don't get that, you still are entered to win the $500 gift certificate from Paragon Performance as well. So if you guys are interested, as usual, the donations are the same thing. Up the top of the super chat over here, you'll see my Venmo link pinned. You can do a super chat. You can send the Venmo. It doesn't matter how you do it. You should get entered here, though, guys. There is a lot of money on the table, and you could potentially win it for $10. So you definitely want to check that out. Okay. So we're getting a lot of people that do know you, Lyle. How about that?
Oh, cool. Hello,
So
everybody.
we got Eric Storms in here. He says, "Hey, Lyle, good to see you're here."
Cool, Eric. How you doing, man?
Aaron, AARPM. I have watched many a C8 Corvette video. Great to have Lyle here. Awesome.
Thank you.
C8 Nate, there's going to be a winner for both. So the very first name drawn will win a intake from David and Brandon. If that person decides he doesn't want the intake and he'd rather have the gift certificate, then the second name drawn will win whichever item is left. So basically, I'm going to draw two names, or a first name, whatever he chooses. The second name gets that one, if that makes sense. Seawolf06 says, "Hi, Justin, and welcome, Lyle." Professor
Thank you,
Corvette,
Seawolf.
welcome, Lyle. Looks like John Perkins has been watching you too. That's awesome.
Good.
I'm glad to hear it because I talked to Lyle at Carlisle and I asked him if he'd be interested in coming on here, and he said yes. I was actually kind of surprised that he said yes, to be honest with you, because it just you have such an awesome approach to the way you guys do your videos. I really like it. You're very informational. You focus on the older Corvettes, which I get a lot of questions about on my channel. A lot of times people are begging me to do older Corvette content, but I personally only have a C8 and a C7, and I used to have a C6. So
Right.
Those are really my expertise in Corvette ends at C5. Anything below C5, I really don't know much about.
You had that green C5.
I understand. A lot of that's a nationwide crisis right now. Is that the guys who were in charge of all of that knowledge for the C2, C3, C4s? A lot of those guys have retired or died, and there's a real lack of that knowledge right now. We're having to go back in the next generation and do our research, dig through all of I've got shelves of old service manuals up in the attic and dig through and find answers that these guys just knew. So yeah, it's a challenge. There's a vacuum right now.
Very true. And it's literally getting worse by the day.
Mm-hmm.
We got our first entry for the intake. Steve Robertson donates $50. So thank you, Steve. As always, guys, like I said, Steve, if you don't win the intake, you will automatically be entered for the gift certificate from Paragon Performance as well. So, guys, if you are interested in either one of the two items, you should definitely jump in on this. This entire month is going to be Paragon Performance focused. So next Monday night, we're going to have Corey from Paragon Performance as well as David and Brandon on here. So we're going to have all kinds of people talking. But the important part of that, of course, is going to be Corey giving us some real background knowledge on all the parts that they have, as well as possibly some awesome Black Friday deals coming up. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. Yeah. So Aaron says, I've even emailed with Lyle a few times back when I had a C5. Cool.
Yep. I remember. I recognize the screen name.
Nice. That's awesome, guys. I love that this works this way. The Corvette community is always so awesome, but to bring somebody on like this, my channel and CNS Corvettes are very, very, very not similar. The biggest similarity is the fact that we both love Corvettes, and that's enough. That is literally enough that some of you guys know. I love that. I love it.
Absolutely.
What? Paul Yunker says, I would love Mountain Dew if they removed the poisonous colorants. And then Professor Corvette says, poisonous colorants are what give it the kick. we got a Mountain Dew thing going on here, Lyle. I'm sure you probably don't know, but I'm a big Mountain Dew fan. And the people who join the memberships on my channel actually get a custom Mountain Dew emoji in the chat here. So
nice.
It's a whole thing. Brand's Garage says Black Friday deals. I'm ready. We're all ready for that. I'm curious to see what Paragon offers. We'll see if those new magnetic shift paddles are on there, because I know you guys are itching for those things. Hanging with Shane, man. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in, buddy. I did see how many thumbs ups we have, but guys, let's smash the thumbs ups. Like I said, just as always, Lyle continues the trend here of getting more and more informational people on the chat here. People who can bring something to the table other than just a pretty face. So we got...
Hey.
No, I'm saying, like, pretty faces are great. But we need a little bit more.
Yeah, amen.
MCGA, make Corvettes great again. I think Lyle could help with that, because the C8's pretty great, but the knowledge out there for the older Corvettes is diminishing, like we were just saying. So we're going to talk a little bit about some C8 Corvette news here, but we're going to get Lyle's take on a C8, since he is more of a C6 and older guy. That was worded improperly, but I think we get it. We get it. So what's this? AARPM just became a horsepower fanatic on the channel.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, Aaron. You now can use the Mountain Dew custom emojis.
Oh, wait, doesn't he have to be a certain member for so long?
Nope. Yeah, always nice to see you on here, Shane. Guys, if you could, like I said, smash the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel. It helps us be able to continue to do this for you guys weekly, and getting new people on here to bring their knowledge on to the channel as well. So,
did you see that Patrick was on? Patrick Repco.
Hey, Patrick. How goes it?
Patrick, you got to come see my new wheels. Whoops.
Yeah. We got 45 thumbs ups currently, guys. Let's keep rolling with those. The more the merrier, of course. So, yeah, Speed 67 says Mountain Dew is the same color as engine coolant. What could possibly be wrong with that? That sounds great. All right, so let's jump right into some news here, guys, because the very first thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure, Lyle, this is probably something you are very familiar with, but one of the very first things that is going to be on the topic tonight is the TSB that's been released for the C8 Corvette addressing a brake issue. Now, I put issue in quotes here because it is a problem, but at the same time, it's not something that's going to, affect your actual braking capability, but it is the brake squealing. So the larger rotors and calipers of the C8 Corvette, any one of the C8s, especially up to the Z06, where you start getting into the carbon ceramics and stuff, the nature of the beast is they squeal. And the biggest reason for that is because of the anti-squeal paste that they use, basically. Eventually it gets washed away. So GM has actually brought out a TSB for this, which I think is kind of interesting that they would address it in a TSB. But apparently enough people were complaining about the squealing and about the problem of the sound that they now have a TSB for the mechanics to follow, to literally make sure that these things are lubricated properly so they're not squealing. So if you guys have a squealing brake, this is where you want to go for the actual fix. It is over at the Mid-Engine Corvette forum. You can actually get the TSB number here, reference it with your dealership, and get it fixed. It is something super easy to do. I'm sure, if I had to guess, there's probably a video of this or something similar over at CNS Corvettes. Would I be right?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet. No, it's again, we don't see other than dress up stuff and LED lighting and some cool exhaust and cool wheels and some body mods. I don't see C8s because they're all under warranty. That's part of the reason that we're so busy with the older cars that GM truly has no idea how to fix anymore.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, we're talking like 2013 Grand Sports. I've had cars come in here on the hook that have been sitting in a GM dealer for 4 months because they couldn't figure out a problem. It comes in here on the hook. 2 hours later, they're driving away, and they're like, "Thanks."
Wow. I'm wondering. I mean, how many C7s do you guys see?
Probably 20%, 25% of our audience here in the shop. Honestly, our bread and butter is C5 and C6 because that's what people drive daily around here. Every day I come to work, I see 10 to 15 Corvettes in the 6 mile drive coming home and going back. So they're everywhere here. And people, for several of my customers, they're their only car because we don't have to put them away for the winter.
Right.
But yeah, so torque tubes, diff and trans reseals, front engine kits with the balancer issue and all that stuff over and over and over again. And I've got people shipping me cars down from Hilton Head, from Charlotte, North Carolina, from Kansas City. I had a guy send me his car from Kansas City to do his torque tube.
Wow.
Because there's nobody out there that knows what they're doing. And if you screw up that torque tube just this much, you're going to kill an engine. And that's really important not to screw that up.
That's a great point because honestly, my C4, I had a C5 that I actually gave away on the channel. If I had to guess, once the car hits a certain amount of miles, if you're going to continue to drive it, that age of car, one of the first things you should start looking at is the torque tube. And I would have absolutely no idea where to take it if I actually needed that done.
Well, I'll tell you, and you just hit on something really important there, Justin. Age. So many people are buying, they're getting into Corvette for the first time. So many of my audience members are new to the Corvette hobby or looking to get into the Corvette hobby. So I get a lot of questions about what do I do? What should I look for? Blah, blah, blah. And they find their beautiful 11,000 mile 50th anniversary convertible. It's gorgeous, but now, the shocks are bad. The balancer is wobbling. It's got an oil leak. This car only has 11,000 miles on it. I said, no. Yeah. This car has 22 model years on it.
Right.
And age, I mean, sit grandpa on the couch for 10 years. See how he looks. Okay. That age takes its toll. Mileage and abuse can hurt a car, but age is going to take its toll no matter if you keep it in a bubble and rub it with a diaper every day. Things are still going to break with age.
Yeah, that is, especially with the torque tube, since there is a lot of rubber bushings and stuff in there. Rubber's going to deteriorate over time. It doesn't matter how many miles are on it.
Well, and remember, those bearings are in that sealed tube, right? There's no airflow in there.
Right.
So during heat and cold and heat and cold and heat and cold, you're getting all this condensation in that tube, and it just keeps forming and disappearing and reforming. Eventually, that dries out the bearings. And you can we'll take those bearings out and show them to the customer. They're like maracas. You can just, that's how worn. They look fine, but they're gone.
Yep. Yeah, Tyler, I figured you would know. Tyler's a big C5 guy, so
hey, Tyler.
He definitely knows you. That's awesome.
Oh,
we got 60 thumbs ups currently, guys. Of course, our goal is always the same, 8 o'clock. Let's hit 100. So we got 12 more minutes to hit 40 more thumbs ups. Let's smash those thumbs ups if we can, guys. Lego D17 said, I had a torque tube issue on my 2014. I watched Lyle's video to recognize the issue. Couldn't find anyone around me that would touch it, so I ended up selling it. There you go.
I hear it all the time. And especially from guys, California, I know there's a couple of Corvette shops in Florida, but there used to be a bunch. And most of them have either moved out of state or closed up entirely. There's a real dearth of Corvette knowledgeable shops in California with that huge population. And they're like, man, Lyle, why don't you guys open a place out here? I'm like, oh, no. I don't want to move 3,600 miles, 4,000 miles away and have to manage 2 places. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that thought, but no.
All right, guys, we got another donation of $100 from Larry Lewis. We know him.
Thanks, Larry.
He is donating for the LT6 painted intake giveaway. So
good luck.
$100. Yep. Somebody's going to win this thing. As of right now, everybody that has donated, for the most part, is at the highest donation is $100. So the first person to donate something crazy is probably going to still win a $3,000 intake for less than $1,000. So, and like David was saying last time he was on here, if you donate even $500 or $600 and you win, David's also going to buy back your stock intake for $600. So at the end of the day, you have won an intake for nothing, which is fantastic by itself. But even if you don't get the intake, you're also going to be entered for that $500 gift certificate from Paragon. So keep that in mind. This is going to be an interesting month for sure. Someone's going to win something pretty crazy. Professor Corvette says, what should you look at on the torque tube, basically, to get an idea if it's bad or not?
Unfortunately, the way GM designed the torque tubes, there's these rubber plugs on the rear bell housing and on the front bell housing. And that lets you see the front of the transmission and the rear of the engine. It does not let you see anything inside the torque tube. All the bearings and couplers and everything are sealed in there. If you're trying to diagnose whether you have a torque tube problem, take it to a mechanic who still has one of the old school mechanic stethoscopes, like a doctor uses, but it's got a long metal tube on it, and have him listen to the front and to the rear of that torque tube. And he'll be able to tell you like that if you've got whine or if you've got growling from your bearings. Yeah, they don't have to disassemble anything. They just have to put it up in the air.
Wow. What is the cost and labor required for replacing a torque tube?
Well, that depends a lot on whether you have an automatic or a manual, because there's a lot of things that you're going to try to fold into that job. I mean, you're talking, this is an 18 to 20 hour job, taking everything out of that car and putting everything back in. So while your rear suspension, your transaxle, your torque tube, the rear of the engine's exposed, you're going to replace a lot of the wear items while you're there, because you really don't want to have to do this 20-hour job again in a year or 6 months or next week when your rear main seal fails or your clutch fails, or your clutch slave fails. You take care of all your leaks from the left rear of the differential, all the things you can do that you should do because you're saving money, are going to affect the cost of that job a lot. I would say round numbers on a C5 doing a clutch in, they're not terribly complicated cars compared to the later C6s and C7s. You're probably going to spend $3,500 to $4,000 for a clutch slave, rear main seal, remote bleeder, rebuilt torque tube, and sealing everything on the end and putting it all back together. For a C6, if you're doing a C6 clutch, especially if you're moving up to an LS7 clutch, probably add another $300 to $400 on that. And then C7s, especially the Z51s or the Z06s, where they have all these extraneous coolers and cooling lines and connections, it takes a lot more work to get that car torn fully down before you can actually get to work. And of course, you have to hook all that stuff back up when you start the job again. Those jobs run $45,000 to $5,000, depending on what you're sticking in it.
Interesting. That I actually expected that to be more expensive.
Well, yeah. The problem is, and you know what is, we're booking for February right now, so I probably should raise my prices and lower my stress level. But there's so many people who need this stuff done, and just like your guy commented, they can't find anybody who will do it. And right. The GM dealer will say, well, we could do it. Or that what they want to do is they want to sell you an entire new torque tube assembly instead of fixing what you've got, right. Which of course doubles the price of the job. So yeah. And I'm trying to help as many people as I can while still growing the company and keeping things reasonable, because most of my people are either retired or working folks locally. Yeah. And I don't want to put the screws to anybody, but I just want to be fair to them and to me.
Gen X Vet says, hey, Lyle, since we're talking C5, have you given any more thought about what the Fantasy C5 Grand Sport / CR1 would be?
You know what's funny? I actually printed that email out, and I have it sitting on the corner of my desk because I'm really giving it due thought before I answer it. I don't usually print emails. I usually just put them off in a different folder. This one I printed because anytime I have a second and I, taking a sip of coffee or just taking a breath before I get back on the phone or back on email, I read that over and I'm like, what would they have done? Especially considering who was in charge at GM at the time. Right. We're talking about only a couple of years after GM wasn't going to have a Corvette at all. Right. So, what would have been, if they were going to do ZR1, what would they have done? I don't think forced induction would have been involved. No. They probably would have just bumped it another 70 horses and given it a cooler bunch of body bits because, they love their paint and body bits. But I'm still thinking about that, and I will give you a well-reasoned, full explanation of my thoughts on that. Just give me about 2 to 3 weeks to form them. It's sitting on my desk right now.
All right, so Alpha Omega Stable says, Justin, is the intake the same on an E-Ray as it is on a Z06? It is not. But
Nope.
if you enter to win the intake or the gift card from Paragon Performance, you could opt for the gift card instead and get something from Paragon for your E-Ray instead of taking the Z06 intake. So this giveaway is a two-parter here. So it's kind of got something for everybody, even something for some of the C7 guys. Paragon does sell C7 Corvette parts as well. So if you have a C7 or a C8, you can enter to win this and just pass on the intake, and then you can choose the gift certificate instead. Looks like we got 75, 80 thumbs ups currently. Thanks, Shane. He says, let's get those thumbs ups, guys. We do need to get those moving. We got 5 minutes to hit 100, as usual. Professor Corvette says, Lyle, do you ever keep rebuilt torque tubes in stock and swap in one you already have rebuilt when the job comes in?
That's an excellent question. I thought about doing that, but I'm a big fan of taking the pieces out of the car and returning as many of those original pieces into the car as I can, because that was born with that car. And even if I have to change everything about it, the bones of it are still the same. I still try to always, unless your torque tube is completely destroyed internally, I'm always going to do what I can to keep your torque tube your torque tube. Things are simpler that way. And, God forbid you end up with a donor that has an unseen problem. You rebuild that, right, put it in somebody's car, and then they have an issue. Now I'm eating a 20-hour in and out. I'd rather just take what comes in, fix it perfectly, and put it back in. I do have people. In fact, I've got a big 6.5 foot tall box sitting here right now that came in today on UPS. I do have people send me just their torque tubes for us to rebuild.
Oh,
and then I ship them back. And it's not an expensive service. The shipping will kill you because it's big and heavy. But we charge, if you send me a torque tube, parts and labor, it's going to be $550 done, and then you pay shipping back.
Wow,
simple.
Okay. Brian's Garage says that the slowing of the forums is also making the knowledge of older gen Corvettes become more difficult to obtain. Absolutely, 100% accurate there. I actually, my knowledge, my interest in knowing car stuff actually was born with the internet and car forums. I would actually buy a car based on how good the forum for it was back in the day. And I have literally watched the forums kind of fall apart, especially if you are a Corvette forum kind of guy. If you want to avoid certain forums. We've talked about this before on this channel on the lives, but basically if you go on Facebook and you join a couple groups, or if you go to specifically, I believe it's just the Corvette forum itself, it gets kind of nasty. People there are kind of toxic, and you go in there and you ask certain questions and you're going to get kicked around, and it's not a great thing. That's why I like the mid-engine Corvette forum so much. And the Corvette blogger, they seem to keep things at a minimum with the people that are kind of more of the toxic types. But the Corvette forum will service your Corvettes from C8 all the way down to C1s. And it's unfortunate because if you go there looking for an answer on a C3 or something, I wouldn't even be able to tell you where to go outside of Lyle. As far as a forum, there's not really anywhere I would recommend because the people are just kind of toxic. I mean, that's the best way to put it.
Well, you also have the problem of contributors on the forum could be 40-year Corvette journeyman specialists who have done everything, restored Corvettes. They know everything about them. Maybe they were GM engineers or employees. And quite honestly, then you have the guy who bought a Corvette last week and 2 books, and now he is an expert.
Right. And yeah, there is no distinguishing features between those two. So one will be barking answers and the other one will be barking answers. And before you know it, you don't know who to trust.
Yeah,
meanwhile, one of them, yeah, exactly. One of them knows exactly what he's talking about and the other guy doesn't. And you can't tell. So Wheeler O'Hara, I did get all your pictures, and I will be sharing those probably next Monday night, I should say. The car turned out fantastic. I love the way it looks. I was sharing it with my friend, business partner, Josh from Blackout Tinting, because he's a big 944 guy, and he thinks it was awesome. I mean, it's just, for those of you who don't know, Wheeler O'Hara LS swapped a 944, which is which is crazy by itself. But the car it's one of the nicest looking cars I've seen. Like those cars are hard to find in nice shape nowadays. It's a nice shape. It's got an LS engine in it now. I mean, it's literally perfection at this point. But we will talk more about that next Monday night, Wheeler. I saw a question here I wanted to answer. What was that? Okay. Lyle, is it possible to make a YouTube video on this torque tube replacement due to its complexity?
No.
I like it. I like it. Straight to the answer.
Because what's going to happen is people who need to have this job done and don't want to pay a professional to do it are going to hurt or kill themselves in the attempt. I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I'm very careful. I have a whole lot of step-by-step how-to videos on my channel for products we make or products that we trust here. But I'm never going to lead anybody into a situation where in an attempt to save money, they're going to do something that's going to drastically change their lives to the negative. So yeah, no. And it is vastly complex. You need a bunch of specialized equipment, especially, like when you're lifting down the entire rear suspension and the transaxle, we have a giant purpose jack for that. The hobbyist isn't going to have that. And God forbid these guys who try to do it on jack stands on their back, they're going to crush themselves, or they're going to break something that is going to be very expensive to replace. And I just don't want to lead people down that path. You gotta be careful with knowledge.
Yeah, no, I'm one that always touts, a do-it-yourself approach, but there is always a limit to that kind of thing. So,
Go ahead.
Alpha Omega says, in your opinion, is it worth putting 95 millimeter or 100 millimeter throttle body intakes on a Stingray 6.2 liter engine? Oddly enough, Alpha, next month I'm going to have a real nice sit down here. So the sponsor for December is Solar Performance. So they're going to have all the answers for you when it comes to ported throttle bodies. That's going to be coming the first week of December. So stay tuned for that. With that said, I will be putting some pretty nice sized throttle bodies on my Z06 here pretty soon. So stay tuned for all of that.
Yeah, Solar's good people. We carry their programmers here, and they were actually under our tent at Carlisle, and they were shocked at how many of you good people came by to visit me and then visited them. They had no idea what to expect. They looked like they had been in the trenches of World War I by the end of the day on Friday. I'm like, oh yeah, no man, this isn't even the beginning. Just wait.
Nice.
So, but yeah, no, they're great people with a great product, and they're the ones who educated me about throttle bodies. So
nice.
Make sure you tune in when Justin talks to them, because they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations already with Joseph. I guess that's probably who you had with you at Carlisle then, because he was telling me about how Carlisle went for them, and it was a lot of people saying the same thing over and over again, especially with their throttle controller, was that it felt like it adds horsepower, when it really doesn't, but it feels like it does because of the responsiveness now of the car. But
right. Well, you think about the degree of lag, especially with the C7 and the C8, that GM built into that throttle.
Yeah.
Because at 50% tip in on a C7 or a C8, you're getting about 29, 28% throttle. They did that because they knew who was buying the cars. People who may not have ever had a 400, 500, 600 horsepower car. Now they reach that point in their lives. They've always wanted one. They get it. They want to go out and make their YouTube video of doing their big smoky burnout, and half of them end up in the woods because they don't know how to handle it. So they dumbed it down. All this does is just put you back to where when you step on the gas, you're getting what you ask for. One of the cool parts of that solar system too, and I know you guys will talk about it when you talk to them, it actually has a lockout mode on your phone where you can lock out the throttle completely.
Yep.
And that car is absolutely immobile. So it's really a nice touch.
Nowadays, more than ever, that is important.
Yeah. Or just buy a manual. No one will steal that.
You know what's funny is I was going to say that I had a Solar Performance throttle controller on my C7 ZR1, which is a manual transmission car. I drove the car for a couple years without it, and then I put it on there, and I was like, man, I can really feel the difference here. But what I had to do at that point was literally relearn to drive the car because it is a manual. And I said, I didn't see a reason for it on the C7 ZR1. Now with my C8 Z06, there is an unbelievable dead spot in that throttle that's really bad on the C8 Z06 specifically. I'm
intentionally.
really, yeah, intentionally, but I'm really curious to see how this affects that. Steve Robertson donated another $100. He said he has to keep up with Larry, so we might be entering into a bidding war here, guys. But again, guys, get yourselves entered on this. Worst case scenario, you might win a $500 gift certificate instead of a $3,000 intake. Either way, you are coming away with something pretty good if you really go hard at this thing. So, we don't really have that many entries right now. I think we have 9 people have entered. So you have a 1 in 9 chance at this point, for the most part, of winning this thing. That's just the intake. Then you'll have another chance to win a gift certificate. You guys need to get entered in this stuff, because every month with these new sponsors, the way that I'm running the lives now, every month is going to be a new sponsor, a new giveaway, and you're going to have a really good chance of winning some really awesome products. So even if you don't care to come here and listen to what I have to say, you should still try to jump in on these giveaways. These are really good products for the price that you could possibly win them for. Let's see. Yeah, Brandon's Garage says throttle controller is probably the best bang for the buck mod. I've heard a lot of people say that. Yeah.
And it changes nothing else about the car. No codes, no weirdness, doesn't change any other system. It is for the 200 or $230, whatever they're getting for them now. And you can always take it out if you don't like it, or if you're going to inspection in California and you're worried, unplug it, take it out, put it back in an hour later.
Yep. It's super easy to install too. The hardest part of the install is finding a good way to run the wire so it's not visible. And I literally told Joseph that on the phone. I said, that's going to be the reason I make the video, is not so much to show you how to install it, because honestly, you could probably train your dog to install it, but I'm going to show you how to route the wires so it looks factory and you don't have to see messy wires hanging around.
One thing I can tell you from our experience on the C7s and the C8s in particular, we actually unbolt the entire throttle pedal from the firewall just to be able to get our hands back in there. It actually, if you'd think it would take longer, it actually saves time.
Yeah. Hot Rod Todd, I like the name. He says, putting my solar controller on after I get 500 miles on the Z06. Nice.
Good choice.
See, I'm waiting. I got mine the other day. I'm waiting to do it because I want to do the throttle bodies first. I know I don't have to necessarily do it that way, but that's the way I feel like I want to feel the progress of this car. I want to see what the difference those throttle bodies make without the throttle controller first.
Right. Well, and the throttle controller is adjustable, where obviously the throttle bodies really aren't. So you'll be establishing a second baseline of performance with the throttle body, and then you can tweak it from there to your liking, which I agree, that's the right way to do it.
Okay. Wheeler O'Hara says, will a solar controller work with the DBM ported throttle bodies, or is DBM making their own controller? It will still work. So the ported throttle bodies from David and Brandon, they're going with one of two options. They have the solar performance throttle bodies, and they're also going to be messing with the Tony Mamo ported throttle bodies too. So both of them are going to be, at least similar, if not, the same. But the throttle controller itself is, just like Lyle was saying, it is adjustable. So even if their throttle bodies are slightly different, you can just knock it down or knock it up a notch, and it's going to feel the same. Aaron says you just cracked a dew. Nice, man.
A diet dew.
Cheers. Solar controller is like removing the restrictor plate from your shower head.
Yeah, well said.
I'll take it. All right, so guys, again, giveaway going right now. If you want to win yourself a custom intake from David and Brandon, you guys can win some seriously awesome stuff. So I want to show you what you're going to actually be getting here, because some of you guys, I know you don't necessarily know exactly what the custom intake is on the Z06. Here it is. So this is actually mine right here. So this is the torch red painted intake with the black throttle bodies in the center and the black throttle bodies on the end. You can't see that are attached to the Eventuri intake there. That's mine painted torch red. If you don't want torch red, okay, fine. Let's get you some Riptide blue. Look at that thing. Now, I've seen this actually done on a Riptide blue car, and it looks phenomenal. I mean, it's just so much better than a black plastic engine sitting in there, or black plastic intake, really. But really, this is what you see when you look at the engine bay. So this, for lack of a better term, this is your engine. This is what you're seeing when you open up that hatch. And Elkhart Lake Blue is beautiful. It's got all that metallic flake in it, just like your paint does. If you don't like the Riptide Blue, try Arctic White. You really can't get a bad color on this thing, is what I'm getting at, guys. Other than the flat black plastic look of the stock intake, there's not a bad color on this thing. And you can have David and Brandon custom paint these things. They charge right around $3,000 for this service because of all the painting and disassembling and everything. And you could potentially get it here for $10. Or if you want to really play hard here, nobody's donated $500 yet. And if you do, David, and you do win, David will also buy back your core for the same price. So you're literally going to spend nothing if you end up winning. And of course, there is still one other color. That's the Sebring Orange right there, if you want to go wild with the new color. So again, guys, I'd get in on this because worst case scenario, you win a $500 gift card from Paragon Performance instead. You can't lose. I mean, the first two winners can't. As of now, only 9 people have entered. Randall Swanson donates $50, so he'll be entered as well. Did you get him done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Randall. So he is now entered to win. So now we have 10. We have 10 people. Let's see. Wheeler O'Hara says, when I was in the U.S. a month ago, I saw a vodka-infused Mountain Dew at Walmart in Orlando and thought of you, Justin. That's pretty cool, actually. I have not seen something like that yet. Now, I did. Someone was just telling me the other day that apparently Mountain Dew was originally formulated as a chaser to whiskey. It was not supposed to be a soda on its own. I did not know that.
Well, I'll tell you this. The grouping of words, vodka-infused Mountain Dew at Walmart in Orlando, that's about the most Murica thing I could possibly.
Right. All right, guys, we got 99. Nope, 100 thumbs ups. That's good. Let's keep rolling. We're definitely a little bit late on that, but let's keep going with the thumbs ups, guys. Lewis says, are the throttle bodies painted carbon flash? No, they're just black. Just a black. Now, as far as I know, Brandon and David, they can paint them pretty much any color you want. Now, the intakes are the same thing. If you want neon pink, you got it. Whatever color you want, which is pretty crazy. I want to see the first guy to put neon pink on his car. I want to see those pictures. Autocross. What mode should a C8 Z06 be in for an autocross event? I would say sport. Yeah, sport. Because when you're in track, the front end of the car actually gets lighter. I don't know if you've noticed this yet or not. Sport, everything's kind of 50-50 balanced feeling, even though I know the car's not 50-50, but it feels like it. In track mode, the front end gets lighter, and that is to reduce oversteer, if I remember correctly. GM talked about this not too long ago, but for autocross, I would do sport. Yeah, Brandon said the throttle bodies are black, but they can be painted carbon flash for a slight upcharge. Lego says he would donate, but it would cost him another $150,000 for the Z06.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. You can win the $500 gift card from Paragon Performance still. If you want to try it for that, you can choose to pass on the intake and take the $500 gift card instead. 104 thumbs ups, 105. It's cool.
Good.
Mountain Dew themed intake.
Mountain Dew themed intake. I like that. I would not put that on my car, but I do like the idea of it. Let me talk about, this was kind of interesting here, guys. If you haven't been following the channel, I'll tell you, I just recently did a video with Patrick, the detail guy. He came out to my house and cleaned the Alcantara steering wheel of my C7ZR1 because Alcantara is just such an interesting material. It's really hard to it's not hard, but it's just different to clean. I had Patrick come out and clean it. I made a video of it, and the Corvette blogger actually picked up that video because it is something interesting to pretty much any Corvette owner out there that has at least a C7 or C8, because Alcantara is everywhere. on the C7s and C8. You have, at some point, you're going to encounter Alcantara, and it's a different kind of material to clean. So this is just me kind of telling you that if you haven't seen that video, to check it out, because apparently even the Corvette blogger thought that it was interesting. So that's always a good thing to know, how to clean some stuff. Now, on the Corvette blogger front, the Keith, basically the guy who runs the Corvette blogger, he just got to buy a C8 Corvette eray. He got it in Hysteria Purple, and this is his very first Corvette, even though he's always wanted a vet. So he finally got one. So if you guys are familiar with the Corvette blogger, go congratulate him. Tell him Horsepower Obsessed sent you over there to do so, because I think he's a good dude, and I think he deserves that car. So
Did he get the purple?
yeah, he got the Hysteria. It goes through all his entire story here, but at the end of the day, if you want to read up on that, go over there, leave a comment, let him know that Horsepower Obsessed sent you over there. Congratulate him, because he deserves it. Like I said, he's a good guy. What else do we have? Oh yeah, so one of the big things that just happened over the last couple days, and actually I wanted to pull these out, because you guys know the giveaway, I don't know, maybe a month ago, was the C8 Rally Driver hatch strut supports, which are really cool. But somebody actually won one of these. They're like $400 or $500 on the Paragon Performance website. But GM just decided that they were going to bring out their own hatch strut supports. And I knew that these were coming about a month ago. About 2 or 3 months ago, I heard that these were coming. And I didn't know what they were going to look like, though. GM finally brought them out. And I don't know if you guys have seen these yet, but if you have, I got to know what you think about the look of these things. Because number one, I think that they're insanely overdone. But number two, they're insanely priced. So if you guys haven't seen these yet, I'm going to open this up for you here. Look at these things. They're just like, I don't even know how to describe this. It's almost too much. But then they're also $2,000. I don't know. I think GM dropped the ball on this one pretty bad, but I'm curious. What do you guys think? What do you think? Yeah, that's how I feel too, Lyle. That price is insane. And it's somebody in the actual, the thread here at the Managing Corvette forum, they posted the picture of the, well, not that. Somebody's commenting on that, but this is the race light hatch support, which is the same thing I just showed you from the C8 Rally Driver. And it's just a much more elegant design, first off. Like the one from GM is just over the top. I mean, obviously the one on the left there is the stock one, and then the one on the right is your C8 Rally Driver, which is a really nice looking piece. It's the one I have on my car. You can get them custom painted whatever color you want. From GM, they're only in edge red, and they're $2,000. You could literally buy 4 sets of these, almost 5 sets of these, from the C8 Rally Driver for the same cost you're going to pay from GM.
I can't believe you just had my picture up on the screen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I accidentally had Amber's picture up on the screen there for a second. Scroll up. All right. So let's see what they say is, modding or changing the hatch strut support isn't anything I have the slightest interest in. Even if they made one that looked like the Eiffel Tower or Statue of Liberty, if they were shaped like a curvy girl in a bikini, I might pay attention, but I still wouldn't buy it. So some guy decided he had to pay us this picture. Anyway. You guys are all perverts. You're all perverts.
Don't count yourself.
Yeah, 2020 Matrix 8. Jeremy says C8 Rally Driver 100%. GM dropped the ball on this. Like, I like where GM's going. I like where their head's at with this stuff, because they're watching the aftermarket. And when they see certain things pop up, they're trying to see how they can capitalize and make some money on it too. And I'm okay with that to some degree. But this thing, they dropped the ball. They over-designed it, and they overpriced it horribly.
Did you see Bill Miller? They're called Corvette pillows. Did you see that?
Yeah, Corvette pillows, nice.
Just for weight of comparison, I would like to point out that for the same price as those 2 little pieces of aluminum, you could go buy a kind of rough running, driving 84, 85, 86 Corvette.
Yeah.
A whole car.
Isn't that crazy?
It is nuts.
LT4 Powered said that he will personally hold your hatch up for $1,000. You're welcome. I like that. Oh, good Lord.
We haven't seen him on in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. 109 thumbs ups currently. Yeah, Steven, this is actually a good point. And actually, I wanted to address a question I got in here earlier too. He says the C8 why does the valve body in the transmission keep going out? This is something I've heard. Actually, Jeremy 2020 Matrix 8, he had the same problem. This is something I've heard from a lot of the new Z06s, and it's specifically the valve body in the transmission that's having an issue. And yeah, he just commented. He said that his went out at 2,000 miles. That's still a brand new car. What's going on with that? And I've seen a lot of people drive it off the lot. The next time they go to start it, they have a check engine light, and it's the valve body. So I don't have an answer for why that's happening. Luckily, knock on wood, I'm at 9,000 miles on my Z06, and I have not had that problem. I have not had any problems with that car. So, yeah, I don't know. But I'm going to scroll up here because there was one question very early on that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if it's still on here. It's not letting me scroll up all the way. I think it was either Professor Corvette or Seawolf Z06 was asking me if I thought that the car manufacturers would ever ship a car or allow you to have PPF basically installed on a car before you purchase it. And I said yes. And the reason I say yes to that is because they're kind of already doing that. Specifically, Tesla and upcoming Rivian, the Rivian cars. So the two electric cars. They're doing it right now where you can customize your car, buy it, and have your PPF, window tint, ceramic coatings worked right into the final price of your car. And then once you pick up the car, you just take it to the whatever shop you want to go to, and it's already ready to go. So they are doing that to some degree now. I would not be surprised to see other manufacturers follow suit, because Tesla was the first one doing it, and then all of a sudden Rivian jumped on. It would be cool to see Chevy jump onto it and just say, you know what, you buy the Corvette, you work the Expel and PPF and everything into the financing, and then you don't got to worry about it. You just take it wherever you want, and it's done.
Well, you didn't say that you're the preferred Tesla dealership in Florida for
We are. We're
installing.
one of the only ones in South Florida, at least. Paul Yunker says, nice job staying on task. Hey, you know me.
I'm sitting here pinching his leg, Paul.
Yeah. Seawolf Z06 says, just had his valve body replaced last week on my Z06.
Ouch.
Yeah, that sucks. But I mean, again, like Lyle was saying earlier, these cars are under warranty, so there's not really it sucks to be without your car, don't get me wrong, but whenever it's warranty, at least you know, number one, it's getting done. You're not paying for it, and it's getting done correctly. I mean, these guys, the mechanics at GM, at least know how to work on the C8s for the most part.
True. Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
I got a quick idea for a future video for you to do with your community, considering your focus. I did a video recently about how GM needs to up its game in its dealer network. You know, when they're charging $100, $130, $150, $200,000, you walk into a GM dealer, you are not getting a $150 or $200,000 customer experience.
Yep.
You might get a cup of burned coffee and a stained seat to sit in, but they aren't giving you loaners. They don't have leather couches. They don't have massages. If they're going to court this market, shouldn't they be stepping up to the plate and making the entire experience commensurate?
Yep. We've actually talked about that before on the live video, at least, where a lot of people were speculating that Corvette was going to split away from the GM Chevrolet dealership experience. And they just recently talked about this. I think it was Mark Royce with Jay Leno, and he said that's not happening. And to some degree, I think it should, for the same reason you just said. I think the salesmen, the mechanics, people specifically trained on Corvette stuff would be a much better experience than having to go to a Chevrolet dealership and have a mechanic who just worked on a Chevy Cruze come work on your Corvette. Because let's be honest, those are two completely different machines, and it's not the same thing.
Yeah, and it's not like they have to go buy more property and build more buildings. They just have to dedicate a couple of bays in a certain amount of square footage of each of their showrooms to the Corvette clientele. We're not talking major, certainly not for GM, a major investment. But I actually did a whole video about this a while back, that it's really, with these cars in the price echelon they're in, I mean, the GM customer experience at Chevrolet has never been, super duper, but it's really in sharp relief right now that they're selling cars to these more moneyed people who have higher expectations, and they're not being met.
Yeah, totally agree. It is something I've talked about in a bunch of videos. And I mean, even in my Z06 review video I was talking about, it took me a long time to find a dealership in my area. Luckily, I found one in my area about an hour away from where I live that has a Corvette tech on hand, which is somewhat similar to what you're describing. All he actually works on is the Corvettes and the Camaros. That's it. And whenever I went out to him, I could immediately tell that he had knowledge that no one else that I've talked to mechanic-wise at a Chevy dealership, he had it. He knew, as soon as I was talking to him about the problem I was having, he knew what the issue was. He knew what the fix was. He knew what oil it took, off the top of his head. And it's just stuff like that. And that's yep. Nice to know that, yeah, my $150,000 car is in good hands.
Right.
Looks like somebody just entered into the raffle too.
Yep. We got Drew. Drew's in there now for $40.
Sweet.
So we now have 10 entries, guys. So
no, it's 11, I think.
Is it 11?
Yeah, it's 11.
Okay, it's 11. We got 11 entries. You still have basically 1 in 11 shot here. Where did I see? Chili Peppers 06. This is an interesting issue. He said that his valve body went out at 400 miles, got a letter from GM saying that they have repaired with the wrong valve body, but it seems to shift fine with 2,400 miles, but we'll have it looked at again. How does that happen? I can't imagine they have 12 different valve bodies that just so happen to fit the same transmission that's in the Z06. It just doesn't make sense.
It's a comedy of errors that you're like you said, that one dealership you dealt with who had a Corvette specialist. When he opened that box, he'd have looked at that and gone, no, yeah. This isn't right.
Yep.
So there was a shipping error, and then the guy installing it didn't know enough to know it was wrong. And so there you go.
Yep. Lewis says, does the engine and transmission have to come out to replace the valve body? No. The valve body is actually replaced from the bottom. The transmission pan on the bottom comes off. They can get to it from the bottom of the car. It's not a super invasive part replacement. It's honestly, if they have the part on hand, it's not even something that will take them longer than a couple hours to replace. It's a pretty easy fix, but most of the time it is something that they have to order. And then of course, GM loves the words national back order, they love that. Nationwide back order. I mean,
we call that intergalactic back order.
Yeah, exactly. They might as well just say it's going to be a couple months. And usually they say they'll give me a time frame of a month or two. And usually it's 2 or 3 weeks. So it usually comes in a little faster than they say. But either way, it still blows my mind that they're building these cars and don't have any extra parts. How is that possible? Let's see. Yeah, Laguna Vet says it may be warranted, but still quality sells. 100%. Whatever it is, whatever problem they're having with these valve bodies is obviously a supplier issue. They need to work it out because again, this is not a cheap car. This is not a $20,000, $30,000 car that is, no big deal. These are high performance machines that you're paying a lot of money for. You should be getting good stuff right off the bat.
Agreed.
Where was that question at? It disappeared. There it is. JC says, when I bought my Z06, they asked me if I wanted ceramic coating on it. That is not the same thing. So you got to watch whenever they ask that kind of stuff, because usually the dealership will be like, oh yeah, we'll put a ceramic coating on it for an extra $500. They're not giving you a ceramic coating.
No, they're going to wash your car with a little bottle about this big that says ceramic coating on it, and that's your $500 or $1,000 ceramic coating. Don't believe them.
Yeah,
a little spray on turtle wax.
Yeah, it's going to be something crazy like that, because what classifies as a ceramic coating nowadays has to have a very, very low percentage of SiO2 in it, and that is almost anything on. You could go to Walmart and get something that classifies as a ceramic coating, and it's not a great thing. So if they say something like that, pass. But if they say, hey, we can work into financing a paint protection film install or ceramic coating install from a dealer of your choice, yes, that's the way you want to do it. Because then you go to the shops that actually know how to do that stuff, and it's already paid for. So the way it works with Tesla is they actually pay on, they customize their car with tint right on the app, and they pay for all of it, all in financing. And then all they got to do is literally it sends an email to whatever dealership they want to, or whatever detail shop they want to go to, which would be me. I open up that email. And I'm like, oh, okay. I call that guy and I schedule him to come in. Whatever time works for him, he comes in. Everything's already paid for. We do the work. He leaves. It's done.
It's probably the same lot lizard that's washing your cars, installing the ceramic coating on it. He goes from washing to putting a ceramic coating on it.
What did you call that person? Let's just hope nobody else heard that, because that is not what that's not what that word means.
We call them.
That is not what we call them.
I know it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. LT Fort Powered says that's a fake ceramic coating. Yes, it is.
Fake ceramic coating. Okay.
Oh, General's in here. General Lee, what's going on, man? How are you feeling? Did someone already ask that question? I'm behind on my comments here, guys. Sorry. What's up, guys? A little under with the weather right now. Just wanted to stop in and say hello. General, thanks for coming in, man. I hope you do feel better. Let me know if I can do anything for you, by the way. Just send me a text. Okay, so we're pushing time here. I want to have Lyle talk a little bit about something. Obviously, you guys know Lyle as the C6 and older Corvette guy. So he recently, how about within the last 2 months or so, got to drive a C8? Is that about right?
Yeah, about 2 months ago. Yep.
He drove a C8 Corvette and had some pretty interesting thoughts on it. I know he put out a video about this, but I wanted him to kind of talk about it a little bit more here, because it is an interesting perspective here, because, you know, a lot of the new C8 Corvette guys are quote unquote not Corvette guys. You know, I mean, we can go forever on this battle back and forth, but what do you think, Lyle? Like, being a fan of the older generation Corvettes, what did you think of the C8?
So let me back up a little bit and take you to when the C7 was introduced. In 2014, I was in a position in my life where I could buy a brand new Corvette. I was so excited. And I went to Bloomington Gold, and Taj was there with, this probably was in 2013 at Bloomington Gold, like the pre-production stuff. And I walked over to him. He had like 4 or 5 of them there. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to fit. Yeah. Can't even physically get in a C7. So I was like, well, I guess I'm never having a car newer than a C5, because if this is where they're going, I'm not going to be able to fit in it at all. Well, we'd had a few C8s in here, obviously, for this, that, and the other. And I sat in them and I fit comfortably, actually more comfortably than I do in my C5 Z06, which is weird, because that is pretty roomy for a sports car. But then I was like, you know what? I really need to get more of an experience than just driving up and down the street after we've done something to a car to check it out. So I went on Turo and spent $500 of my own money, and I rented a C8 for 2 full days. It was a base 1LT coupe, had 38,000 miles on it, white with a red interior. And I mean, it had been a rental its entire life. So we're not talking a sweetheart, right? I mean, the car was clean and it was well maintained, but this car hasn't had an easy life. I was absolutely shocked at how comfortable that car was, because my son and I did 300 miles in that car in 2 days, all around the state of Florida. I was absolutely shocked at how comfortable I was continually in that car, driving it. Even in my C5 Z06, I'm 6'10 and a half, almost 6'11. In my C5 Z06, after about 30 minutes to an hour, I need to get out and walk around a little bit. The C8, instead of sitting on the seat, you sit in the seat like a bird in a nest, which is a really, really cool feeling, and not something I'm used to from Corvettes, unless you're in a C4. And I thought that the driving dynamic was fantastic. I thought that coming from the interior of a C5, that I'm used to every day, I mean, this was like being on the deck of the Starship Enterprise. I mean, the quality and the sheer amount of amenities and features in that interior blew my mind. And they all worked. Cold air, super nice. I did launch control a couple of times, although don't tell the guy I rented from that I did it. Really, really great experience. I couldn't say enough good things about the car. I would say that I'm not used to a DCT, so I found it to be a bit clunky driving around parking lots and at low speeds. It just didn't feel like it really knew what it wanted to do. And I'm not sure if that was specific to that car or if it's just something that goes with a DCT. I know that some of my friends who have BMWs say, yeah, that's kind of the way it is at low speeds, but I'm not sure. Maybe you could answer that for me. Is that something that you've noticed with these?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of honestly outside of the fact that when we were talking about the throttle controller, you said that, a lot of the people that were buying it weren't really used to that high of horsepower car. I think it's another part of the reason they program in some dead spot in that throttle is to avoid that jerkiness, because if you tap, just start to put your foot on it, it starts jerking, your immediate reaction is to pull your foot off, which jerks it again, and then you put it back on, and then it's just a never-ending cycle. So they program that little dead spot in there for that, I think. But yeah, that's kind of normal. Uh-oh. I think we lost him. Oh, something happened. There he is.
Oh, there we are.
Okay.
I just moved the mouse. It solved it.
Oh, your computer probably started going to sleep.
I absolutely wanted one after I got done with that experience. And I absolutely believe that it's a Corvette. I'm excited for anything they do Corvette. And the fact that they decided to follow Zora's dream from 60 years ago, and finally make it mid-engine so it can actually put down the power that they wanted to give it, I think it's fantastic. My son, on the other hand, he's 22. He's an endurance racing driver. He's raced at Daytona and Sebring and Road Atlanta and all these different places. And he's a far better driver than I am, by far. And I had him drive the car, and he took me out and took me on a drive out in the country that curled my toes pretty good, to be honest with you. And his take was that it was an outstanding vehicle, but at 22, he didn't think it was a Corvette, because for him, the Corvette is my old Z06 or a C7 Grand Sport. He's like, it's a fantastic car. I just don't think it's a Corvette, which I thought was interesting coming from somebody so much younger. That's what we're hearing all the time from the older people.
Yeah,
but to hear it from somebody that young, I was like, well, that's an interesting take. And I mean, he knows his cars.
Huh. So you have a C5, right?
Yeah, I've got a C5 Z06 with 260,000 miles on it.
Would you move from that car to a C8, assuming price wasn't a factor or anything like that? Like, just based on the driving dynamic of the cars, would you move?
I wouldn't move. I would keep my C5 Z06 and add a C8.
Okay.
And because I don't want to lose that more analog driving experience. I love that. I love the simplicity and the personality of the C5 Z06. But like when I'm going to go to one of my son's races up in South Carolina or something, would I drive the C8? Oh yeah, all day long.
See, that's ultimately why I kept my C7 ZR1 as well, because the driving dynamics between those two cars, honestly, the C7 in general is more like the C5 than even close to the C8. So you're keeping the C7 and the C8 because they are two completely different cars. There is very little similarity between those two cars. And honestly, there might not be any, to be honest with you. But if there is anything, it's very small. And it's great to have that front engine feel still from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's, they're both excellent answers to the same question. It's just a matter of what you're in the mood for that day. I mean, we don't eat the same thing for dinner every night. We don't, that we should probably have more than one car for our different moods and our different tastes. At least that's the way I do it.
It's a good way to do it. Definitely an interesting outlook, guys. So those of you out there who were thinking, you're kind of on the fence about getting a C8, if you're more of a, C7, C6, C5 kind of guy, this is a really good kind of take on this, because I know that those people exist out there that are kind of on the fence on this thing, because the C8 is a completely different thing than what Corvette guys have had in the past. And honestly, I mean, the Corvette has been largely the same since the C4 up to the C7. I mean, they're basically very similar cars all the way through. The C7 is still, to this day, one of my favorite Corvettes. And the C6 is a close second to it. And the C8 fits in there somewhere. But I really like the C8, but the C7 is just your more of your typical Corvette. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting take on that. I appreciate that, Lyle.
And one last note. for all of the people out there who may be listening, who are, die hard, and I don't like C8s. I'll never have a C8. They're not Corvettes, whatever. Okay. But that kind of sounds to me like a kid going, no, I won't eat it. I don't like it.
Right.
And just like a parent, I'm going to say, well, don't say you don't like it till you try it. If you guys, I'll tell you what, if anybody out there, if you're a Corvette fan and you love Corvettes, you owe it to yourself to either go rent one off Turo or borrow a friend's, live with it for a day, live with it for 2 days, then give it back. You owe yourself that experience, even if you don't ever plan on owning one afterward. It is such a special and different experience from anything you've known in any Corvette you've ever had. I mean, why wouldn't you want to know what that is like?
Yeah.
And once you give it back, you miss it, you go buy one.
Yeah. And honestly, that's kind of what happened with me. My very first experience with the 2020 C8 Stingray, at the time I was working with a dealership that had agreed to give me the car, let me use it for 2 or 3 months, make content with it, and then give it back because I had no intention on buying it. Mm-hmm. I had it for less than a week before I said, I'm signing the papers on this thing. I'm keeping it because it was an awesome experience. I loved it, but I knew I wasn't going to trade my C701 for it because I loved that too. So it's like, it's different enough. You can have both. If you can afford both, that's the way to do it.
Yep. It's like trying to choose which one of your children to give up. You just don't. You just keep them.
I like how you say that like it is an option. Okay, we got 122 thumbs ups currently. 2020 Matrix 8 says, are we talking about the Stingray or the Z06? Has Lyle driven a Z06? Have you driven it?
No. I have not had the opportunity to drive a Z06 yet. And actually, one of my very good customers here, his name's Jeff. He has a pristine black on black 63 split window coupe that is just chef's kiss beautiful.
Yeah.
He also has a brand new, or almost a year old, 2023 Z06, Z07. And he came in here one day and was like, anybody who wants to drive it, drive it. And I had all my people go drive it. I wasn't going to, he had a limited amount of time and I wasn't going to take that opportunity away from any of my people. So I didn't get a chance to drive it, but they all loved it. They said it was fantastic. And I can just imagine the C8 experience dialed up to 11 with the addition of that sound.
Yep.
That's gotta be amazing.
And
hopefully soon.
2020 Matrix 8 kind of said the same thing that I think about it is I've owned the C8 Stingray. I've owned the C8 Z06. The Z06 is entirely different from the Stingray. Entirely. I mean, honestly, I got rid of my Stingray knowing that the Stingray was never going to be my final car in the C8 generation. I knew it was going to be the Z06. And whenever I got into the Z06, it fixed every single issue I had with the Stingray. If by any chance you and I see each other before you get a chance to drive one of those, I'd love to have you take my car for a ride. I wish I would have known that during Carlisle. I would have put you in it then.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I think it would be awesome to get your take on that coming from a C5 Z06. I mean, lots of time in between those two cars. And if something happens that we can make that work, I'd love to have that happen. I think that'd be a cool video too. So.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate the offer very much.
No problem. Wheeler O'Hara says that he might consider giving a child for a Z06.
Not his, but a child.
Yeah. I mean, it's much easier to give someone else's child. Dave Jones, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. 124 thumbs ups. Yeah, Jeremy. She used the word that she shouldn't have used.
That's what we called them back when we were like.
No, we never called anybody that except for exactly what those are. So, let's move past that.
Get over it.
Yeah, let's move past that. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to start wrapping this thing up. One more time, I do want to mention to you guys the giveaway for this month. 2 giveaways, really. You got the C8 Z06 custom painted intakes. You can have them painted whatever color you want if you win. It is a $3,000 option. If you donate $100 or more, you're double entries. But you can donate just $10 and it is a entry. So you could potentially win. And I've seen this in the past where someone who donates $10 will win a couple $100 product. So don't think that if you donate $10, you stand no chance of winning, because as of now, we only have 11 people that have entered. You still will have a chance. With that said, the more you donate, the better your chances are of winning a $3,000 intake for your C8 Z06, custom painted whatever color you want. If you don't want that, you can also enter to win the Paragon Performance $500 gift certificate. We're going to have Corey from Paragon on next Monday night to talk more about all of the Paragon Performance specifics, including possibly a really cool Black Friday deal. So stay tuned for that. But you don't have to be on the live video to donate. If you guys decide you want to donate and get entered in on this after watching this video and it's not live anymore, you still can. Use the Venmo link to donate to Horsepower Obsessed. You can do that right through Venmo. Just type in Horsepower Obsessed. Donate whatever you want. Let me know in the comment section what it's for, and you're entered.
Mr. Corvette has a question.
Mr. Corvette says, once again, my question doesn't get asked or answered. What question was that, Mr. Corvette?
You passed on they were coming in so fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes I do miss them. That's my bad, but
not intentionally.
It's not intentional. I will answer it now if you want to ask it again, Mr. Corvette. Especially since I like that name. Ghost Rider says needed that Paragon gift card a couple weeks ago. Well, they're gonna have some cool Black Friday deals coming up, so stick around.
Just scroll up and see if we could find out what it was.
Let's see. Hey, Bill. Paragon Performance sells those clear covers. So if you enter to win that $500 gift certificate, you can use that towards the purchase. But at some point, I probably will have those on here as well. Steve Robertson says, thanks for joining us, Lyle. Huge thank you to Lyle. Huge thank you for coming out. I appreciate you getting on here, especially since
pleasure.
A lot of these guys actually knew you. I'm surprised. I didn't think our channels were going to, mix that much, but it looks like it does.
Good. Happy to hear it.
I really am too. I really liked having you on here. I like your approach to this, really knowledgeable stuff. And that's what I wanted to try to do with the Monday Night Lives is make it more of a hangout. We could sit here and talk Corvettes for days. And that's the thing is all of us in this chat could as well. So if they were all here physically, we would still be able to chat for days on Corvette stuff. So
correct.
Really appreciate it. Lyle, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you all of you guys for tuning in. The giveaways happening and everything. I appreciate all of the donations. Your guys' support means the world. I think that's, sunny Sarasota. There it is, Texas Clay.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. And for any of you watching who haven't seen our content in CNS Corvettes, by all means, go check it out. We do a lot of different things with Corvette history and how-tos and solves for little problems that the cars have. And we try to keep it entertaining and fun. So if you haven't seen our channel before, check it out. You might like it.
I agree. I will have it posted in the description down below, guys. If you want to just click on a link, head over to his channel, let him know that Horsepower Obsessed sent you so he knows you came from here. And then, it'd be awesome to we're obviously trying to help out all the Corvette guys. So we can all have a little bite to eat. But anyway, guys, thank you again. Thank you, Lyle. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you same time, same place next Monday night.